Y'all want to know how to fly from the US to Europe for under $200? Because that's what we're gonna get learned up on today. As you might notice, I'm not in my tiny home. I'm actually in this cute little Scandinavian cabin up in northern Norway because I just finished shooting a video at an igloo hotel for my main channel. It was dope. But part of the reason I wanted to come here is that the literal cheapest plane ticket I could find from the Western US to Europe was from LA to Oslo on a new airline called Norse Atlantic, and it costed about $300 one way. But if I would have flown out of New York, that ticket would have costed under $200, which is just silly. I think part of the reason Norse Atlantic is such a cheap airline is because they're a brand new airline that just started flying in 2022. Matter of fact, they're so new that there wasn't even a check-in counter for them at LAX, and they actually had to borrow some of Frontier Airlines counters. Yeah, they're the newborn baby of the airline world. And this got me thinking, what other brand new airlines are there that'll get you wicked cheap deals just because they're brand new and trying to get the ball rolling? Well, your boy did his research and found some other cheap new airlines that offer good deals, and now it's time to share my newfound wisdom with y'all. Man, I say y'all a lot for a dude who's not from the South, let me tell ya. So as mentioned, the first airline I have to share with you guys is Norse Atlantic, and the best deals you're gonna find from Norse Atlantic are from the US to Oslo, Norway. Of course, we have my $300 flight from LA. That actually would have been even cheaper if I booked it earlier, but your boy's the CEO of booking flights like 4 days in advance. You can also get the $100-something-odd flight from New York, which is absolutely unheard of. I seriously don't even know how that pays for gas across the Atlantic Ocean. That's absurd. And for you Florida people, they fly out of Fort Lauderdale for about $300. But it turns out they don't just fly to Norway. They also fly a number of routes between the US and a number of southern European cities like London, Paris, and Berlin. I personally had a great time on my flight. It was a nice new plane because it's a new airline, and I slept the entire way. Food wasn't included like it is on a lot of European airlines, but for the amount you're saving, you could go eat at every restaurant in the airport and then some. And they have a la carte meals available for purchase, so there's that. Also, I think I figured out one of the reasons this airline is so cheap, and it's because they have this catalog on the plane where they sell things like cologne and expensive watches. At first, I thought it was like one of those Sky Mall catalogs where you can order really weird stuff that gets shipped to your house, but I was wrong. It turns out the stuff in their catalog can actually be bought on the plane. So I guess you could just order a meatloaf dinner with a Rolex on the side or something like that. I don't know about you, but when I want to buy some cologne, I make sure to book a trip to Norway and purchase it midair. That's the millionaire mindset, baby. Who knows, maybe the one person who buys an expensive watch on that flight makes it cheap for everyone else. If that's the case, I'm actually into this, and I think it's a great business model that should be adopted by more airlines. And you might be worried about Norse because they only fly out of a few US cities, but let me tell you what you can do to fix that. What you'll want to do is just buy a cheap domestic flight from your area to one of the cities Norse flies out of, and I guarantee even with that included, it'll be the cheapest way to get to Europe. Personally, I flew from Salt Lake City to LA on an $80 Spirit flight. I know, yikes. And then I hopped on my flight to Norway. Anyways, Norse Atlantic is a baller airline, would recommend. And just for the record, none of this is sponsored. I feel like I need to say that because that sounded very sponsored. It's not. Trust me, I'll tell you if something sucks. So the next new airline you'll want to look into is Play Airlines, which is an Icelandic airline. Dude, I might need to take one of those soon. Iceland has been on my list for so long. It's coming. And the best deals on Play are flights to Iceland, but they also fly to a number of other European cities, so give them a look. And they unfortunately only operate out of the eastern US, so if you're a rootin' tootin' Westerner like me, you're gonna need to get out east first. But then you got yourself a killer deal to Iceland. I found flights from New York to Reykjavik. Holy Moses, that is a lot of syllables pressed together. I found flights from New York to Iceland for under $200 each way, and from Boston to Dublin for about $160 each way. Yeah, I pronounced it right that time. Dublin, Ireland. Dude, that was so embarrassing. Gosh. They also fly out of a number of European cities to Iceland, so if you're European, you're in luck. But if you're a poopin', I got nothing for you, pal. I found flights from London to Iceland for about $70 each way, and from Amsterdam to Iceland for about $150 each way. And it's a good thing you can save on flights to Iceland with Play, because once you're there, that's an expensive place. You're gonna wanna save all the money you can for there. The next airline on the list is Zip Air. That's a fun little word to say.
Zipper.
Now this one is a Japanese airline that offers flights from LA, Honolulu, and a number of Asian countries to Tokyo, Japan. And not only are they the most boring looking flight to Japan, but they're also the cheapest. For a flight from LA to Tokyo, it'll be about 48,000 yen, which translates to 360 USD. That's cheap. I mean, from the US, Asia is practically on the other side of the planet. The Pacific Ocean is dummy thick. $360 to get you across it is one heck of a deal. And like I said, they fly out of Honolulu, so if you're in the mainland US and want to go to Japan, it might be fun to do a little stopover in Hawaii and go explore there first, and then hop on your flight and then go to Japan. Just a thought. I like to help you guys have fun. And they have flights to Thailand and Singapore, so make sure to give them a look if you're planning any Asian excursions. That's the word. Next up on the roster, we have Breeze Airways, which isn't an international airline, but if you're part of the 60% of Americans who don't have a passport, this one's for you because it flies all over the US of A. And by all over the USA, I mean from a bunch of East Coast cities to a few cities in the Southwest. But for real, if you need to get across the US, this is a new airline that's pretty darn tootin' cheap. Let's say you live in Cincinnati, Ohio, and one morning you just wake up and think to yourself, wow, I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. My life has hit rock bottom. You could fly from Cincinnati, Ohio to Orange County, California for only $99. And to be fair, I don't think California is much better, but at least you aren't in Ohio. Or let's say you live in Cleveland, Ohio, and you get to thinking, wait, the only thing worse than living in Cincinnati, Ohio is living in Cleveland, Ohio. Well, lucky for you, a flight to Las Vegas is only $130. And sure, it may not be as cheap as the guy fleeing Cincinnati, but at least you're not in Ohio anymore, and at the end of the day, isn't that what really matters? Another new US airline I've heard a lot about is Avelo, which is similar to Breeze, but serves different areas, like the Pacific Northwest, which is personally one of my favorite regions of the US. And the really nice thing about this airline is it flies between a lot of the smaller airports instead of the big international airports. So if you're in an area without an international airport, that can be nice. Like, instead of flying into LAX, you could fly into Burbank Hollywood Airport, and instead of flying into Portland, Oregon Airport, you could fly into Bend or Eugene. And a flight from Bend, Oregon to Burbank, California would be $69. Nice. And one thing that's important to note about all these airlines I just mentioned is that part of the reason they're so cheap is instead of charging you for everything at once, they're charging you for every little thing as an add-on. On these airlines, you normally need to pay separately for things like carry-on bags, meals, entertainment, oxygen to breathe, Rolex watches. So if you're the type of traveler who likes to travel with 6 bags and eat a 5-course meal on your way to Europe, you might want to weigh your options because just flying on a bigger airline where everything's all-inclusive might actually be a cheaper option. But if you're like me and pack lightly, can go 10 hours without eating, and really just need a place to sit from one destination to the other, these airlines I just discussed are going to be your cheapest option 15 times out of 10. Well, I gotta go eat a reindeer steak or whatever the heck the people here in Norway eat. Hope this was helpful. Safe travels. Bye-bye.